A blessed good morning, honorable members, and those under the sound of my voice. In our Moments of Impact devotional segment, I'll be sharing a devotional today entitled, The Value of Hard Work. One of the most invaluable lessons I've learned over the years is that hard work is necessary for success. As a teenager, my father drilled the concept of hard work into my mind by giving me the keys to his business, of which I was responsible for opening and closing the store during the summer months when I was on break. While most of my peers at the time had the privilege of being home and enjoying their summer break, my story was different. At the time, I thought my father was being very unfair to me, but he was really teaching me the value of hard work. To this day, I hold firm to the lessons I've been taught as a teenager about hard work. You see, contrary to what many believe, success comes with a hefty price tag called hard work. Hard work requires you to pay the price of intentionality, sacrifice, effort, and consistency. David Bly says, and I quote, "Striving for success without hard work is like trying to harvest where you haven't planted." The reality is, if you're not prepared to work hard, you're not ready for success. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 10 says, "Whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your might. For in the grave where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom." Hard work is valuable because at the end, it always pays off. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 11 says, "He who works his land will have an abundance of food, but he who chases fantasies lacks judgment." Proverbs chapter 14, verse 23 says, "All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk only leads to poverty." While you might not see the fruit of your labor today, by working hard, just give it time. Don't get weary in well-doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. In conclusion, I want to admonish each of you under the sound of my voice to work hard and consider the aunt who understands the value of hard work. According to Proverbs chapter 6, verses 7 to 8, the ant has no commander, no overseer, or ruler, yet it stores its provision in the summer and gathers its food at harvest. I leave you with this final thought today, which is a principle I live by. Only what you put in is what you will get out. Selah. Think and act on these things. Let us pray. O Lord, our God, how excellent is your name in all the earth, who has set thy glory above the heavens. When we consider thy heavens and the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars, which thou hast ordained, what is man that thou art mindful of him, and the Son of Man that thou visitest him? For thou hast made him just a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. As a grateful people and nation, we pause today to say thank you for your new mercies you bestow upon us daily, for great is thy faithfulness. As we go through this day, Almighty God, lead us, guide us, and direct our paths. For we don't know what we will face today, but we pray for the courage to overcome every obstacle. We pray, Almighty God, for your covering upon our parliamentarians. And we humbly ask today, Almighty God, that you would undergird them with resilience, with fortitude, and with wisdom as they carry out their various assignments. Oh Lord, we pray today that you would envelop this honorable house with your presence and continue to make your face to shine on the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Let us pray the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Fred Mitchell, Glennis Hannah Martin, Alfred Zez, Dr. Michael Darwell, Clay Sweeting, Keith Bell, Wayne Monroe, Vaughn Miller, Jobek Colby Davis, Ginger Moxie, Mario Bole, Jomo Campbell, Basil McIntosh, Miles Zeroto, Pia Glover Roll, Lisa Raming, Zane Lightburn, Dr. Hubert Minnis, Jamal Strawn, John Pindo, Bacchus Roll, Leon Lundy, Kurt Cornish, Wade Watson, Leonardo Lightburn, Leslie Miller Bryce, Eroy Major, Sylvanus Petty, Mikkel Barnaby, Michael Pintard, James Quincy Thompson, Aaron Lewis, Shannon Cartwright, Adrian Gibson, Adrian White, Kingsley Smith.
Good morning, honorable members. It is my hope that all is well with each and every one of you. As we go down now the order of business, as we do the people's business. Introduction and swearing in of new members. Laying of documents by ministers. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
No laying of documents, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, honorable member. Statement and communications by ministers.
No statement or communication.
Thank you, honorable member. Communications by the clerk. Messages from the Governor General. Messages from the Senate. Motion for leave of absence, leave to resign, seat, and new writs. Presentation of petitions. Presentation of reports of committees. Adoption of reports of committees. First reading of bills.
No first reading.
No first reading. Second reading, committal of bills. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I rise for the second reading and committal of a bill for an act to amend the Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information Act. Madam Speaker, I would like to speak to the amendments to the Automatic Exchange and Financial Account Information Bill Act, which seeks to amend that act for the purposes of strengthening our compliance with international standards. I would like to speak specifically, Madam Speaker, on two essential legislative amendments that were tabled in Parliament, this was yesterday morning. In particular, the first is the Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information Amendment Bill 2024, and the second is the Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information Amendment Regulations 2024, which was laid yesterday as well. Madam Speaker, the Bahamas committed to the implementation of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, commonly known as the OECD's, Common Reporting Standards, CRS, in relation to the automatic exchange of financial account information in 2014. In the latest peer review report for the Bahamas, the OECD's Global Forum Secretariat made a number of recommendations for the improvement of the Bahamas' domestic legal framework. Our legal framework is determined to be in place, but needs improvement. During the year 2025, the Bahamas will undergo the second round of effectiveness review for the OECD and Global Forum's transparency and exchange of information for tax purposes common reporting standard, automatic exchange of information. For the Bahamas to be considered for the reassessment of its legal framework, the legislative amendments have to be addressed, enacted, and enforced by the end of this month, which is end of June at the latest. The amendments contained in the Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information Bill include One, the removal of the Bahamas executive entities, commonly called B, from its list of categories of jurisdiction-specific non-reporting financial institutions, and the widening of the scope of the legal powers to prevent and address circumvention of the AEOI standard in the Bahamas. AEIO meaning the Automatic Exchange of Information standard in the Bahamas. The amendments of the Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information regulations include the granting, these are the regulations, the granting of access powers to allow the competent authority to inspect records during an on-site visit. 2, updating the list of participating jurisdictions to include only those jurisdictions with which the Bahamas has activated the CRS-AEOI relationship, and updating the list of reportable jurisdictions to include jurisdictions with which the Bahamas has automatically exchanged CRS, which is the Common Reporting Standard, and AEOI, the Automatic Exchange of Information treaties. Madam Speaker, the Bahamas has to demonstrate to its peers that it has an effective regime in place to monitor financial institutions with respect to their compliance with the Common Reporting Standards, Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information, CRS, AEOI. The Bahamas has to have provisions in the Act or regulations that meet the requirements of the AEOI standard. The Bahamas executive entities, Bs, as I mentioned earlier, have been removed from its list of categories of jurisdiction-specific list of excluded entities because they do not meet the requirements of an excluded entity under the Common Reporting Standard. Over the past few years, there's been much debate among the Bahamas financial services industry, the competent authority, and the OECD on the function of a B and whether it meets the definition of a reporting financial institution under the Common Reporting Standard. It is noted that the B acts as a trustee in the same manner as a private trust company. They were formed to hold the shares of a private trust company. The B can function as a director or protector of a trust. The regulations define the B as entities that render investment advice and act on behalf of or manage portfolios for a customer for the purpose of investing, managing, or administering financial assets deposited in the name of the customers with a financial institution, or that performs or executes executive functions on behalf of a reporting financial institution. Based on this divergence from the CRS, the OECD concluded that the categorization of the B under heading as a non-financial reporting institution is incorrect and inadequate, as the accounts of the B will demonstrate incorrect values with respect to certain controlling persons of a trust. Therefore, the B should be viewed as a reporting financial institution. Although the Act, as it stands, contains the CRS anti-avoidance provision, it is a requirement of the CRS to have rules that apply to financial institutions, persons and intermediaries that prevent them from adopting practices intended to circumvent the due diligence and reporting procedures, Madam Speaker, all that has to be corrected. To address this issue, we must provide greater clarity to the anti-avoidance or anti-circumvention provisions. The CRS calls for the competent authority to be aware of schemes to avoid or circumvent the Common Reporting Standard. The CRS also requires the competent authority to have the power to ensure that in the event of an anti-avoidance scheme or through unwinding or ignoring the circumvention, the CRS information will be reported and exchanged by the reporting financial institution as if the CRS circumvention had not taken place or in a manner that would be required in the absence of the circumvention. For an effective CRS AEOI monitoring regime, it is necessary for the competent authority to have access powers to inspect records during the on-site visit. The competent authority, for the purposes of verifying compliance with the AEOI standard, has to ensure that reporting financial institutions are applying proper record-keeping procedures. In this vein, reporting financial institutions should have the requisite documents on file, such as self-certifications, samples of accounts and underlying documentation, and proper due diligence documents. The competent authority also has a duty to ensure that reporting financial institutions are adhering to the retention period for holding or retaining documents. In essence, there should be no limitations on the competent authority in exercising their access power that would restrict access to records held by a reporting financial institution that are relevant to verifying due diligence and reporting, both for reportable accounts and those claimed not to be reportable accounts. With regards to the powers to sanction legal arrangements, there was a concern that because the legal arrangement lacks legal personality and thus property, a sanction could not be imposed directly on the legal arrangement. Therefore, clarity in the law was needed with respect to whether sanctions can be applied on a trustee or a person in a similar position, including the specific legal provision that will allow such sanctions to be applied to the trustee or a person in a similar position, and not only on a legal arrangement itself. While the Act contains a definition for participating jurisdiction and includes a published list of participants, the Bahamas regularly reviews the most recently issued list of participating jurisdictions identified by the Secretariat of the OECD, and when appropriate, updates its notice of intended exchange partners to ensure ongoing alignment with the AEOI standard. Moreover, the list of participating jurisdictions should align with those partner jurisdictions with whom there is an activated exchange agreement. As a result, and for this purpose, a reportable jurisdiction list has been formulated and included in the legislative framework. It is noteworthy to mention that there have also been a slight amendment to the guidance notes on the common reporting standard for automatic exchange of financial account information on tax matters. Madam Speaker, it has come to the attention of the Competent Authority that the European Union will be updating its list of non-cooperative jurisdictions for CRS AEOI purposes during the year 2026. By now, Madam Speaker, we are all aware of the consequences of being listed on the EU's list of non-cooperative jurisdictions. For all intents and purposes, just as we did economic substance reporting, this administration will do what's necessary to ensure that we are viewed as cooperative and compliant. Addressing the legal gaps and developing and implementing an effective CRS AEOI compliance strategy will improve Bahamas' AEOI rating. It is important to note that should the Bahamas not address the recommendations and concerns of the Global Forum Secretariat, the Bahamas will not be considered for a second round of effectiveness review in 2025. The Bahamas will maintain this rating of non-compliant indefinitely. Madam Speaker, the Bahamas remains willing and ready to cooperate with the international regulatory bodies, as well as its international exchange partners. At the same time, the Bahamas has to remain responsive to changes in global standards while preserving its invaluable financial services industry and superior financial products. We uphold the highest standards while also advocating for fairness in the application of these standards across all jurisdictions. Our nation is always mindful of our strong regulatory framework and the need to secure our posture as a jurisdiction that is committed to integrity and ensuring international best practices in this area. As always, we are still recognized as a well-regulated, competitive, globally financial services center. And we will do all that is necessary to maintain our good standing as a compliant, transparent, and competitive global leader for financial services and investments. Madam Speaker, I continue to tout that the Bahamas is one of 6 jurisdictions in the world that has been considered to be compliant with the 40 recommendations of the Financial Advocate. And I wish to, and that will continue, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable
So
Member.
I so move for the second reading and passing to committee of the bill. Thank you.
Is there a seconder?
No, I don't need that.
The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Freetown.
Madam Speaker, I rise on behalf of the people of Freetown to second the second reading and passage of this bill. And for those of us who have read some cases, my argument is very simple, Madam Speaker. I've heard the member for Cat Island, Romkey, and Salvador. I concur and have nothing to add, Madam Speaker. And I vote for the second reading.
Thank you, Honourable Member. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to amend the Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information Act. As many are in favor, will remain seated. I'm moving too fast.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Senate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to bring to government's attention 2 provisions of this amendment that may need to have amendment. And it's just my personal view with regard to the proposed Section 3 and Section 4, somewhat of a duplication. I would suggest that Section 3 could be removed because Section 3 of this amendment deals with the head note of Section 15, and then Section 4 of the amendment actually deletes the entirety of Section 15, and when it creates the new Section 15, has the head note as amended in Section 3 already covered in it. So that's probably, Section 3 deals with the amendment to the head note by adding the words anti-circumvention after the existing head note of anti-avoidance. But then Section 4 comes in and deletes the entirety of Section 15, including the head note. And with the insertion of the new Section 15, it already, in that Section 4, includes the head note. And then if we look at actually the new Section 15, so the new Section 15(1) says, where a person enters into an arrangement or engages in a practice, the main purpose, or one of the main purposes of which can reasonably be considered to be to avoid an obligation imposed under this Act or the regulations made under this Act. The person is subject to the obligation as if the person had not. I'm reading Section 1 of the new Section 15 of the Act, which is found in Section 4 of the amendment. So the person is subject to the obligations as if the person had not entered into the arrangement or engaged in the practice, and then it goes on at 2, but I'm not concerned with 2. I think that there should be amendment to this subsection 1 of the new Section 15, so that it'll read, where a person enters into a legal arrangement. And the reason I say that the word legal should be inserted there in the first line is because of the definition of entity found in Section 2 of the amendment. And the new definition of entity reads, entity means a legal person or legal arrangement, not just simply arrangement, but legal arrangement, such as a corporation, partnership, trust, or foundation. Also, Section 1 comes under this new head note for Section 15, which reads anti-avoidance or anti-circumvention, but presently the new Section 15 doesn't at all mention circumvention or circumvent. So if I can, I'll just read through section 1 again and indicate where the word legal circumvent should be considered to be added. Subsection 1 now should read, where a person enters into a legal arrangement, so inserting legal there would be the first one, or engages in a practice, the main purpose, or one of the main purposes of which can reasonably be considered to be to avoid or circumvent. So the words or circumvent should also be added after the word avoid. An obligation imposed under this act or the regulations made under this act, the person is subject to the obligation as if the person had not entered into the legal arrangement. So legal needs to be inserted there after arrangement, and then it just finishes or engaged in the practice. Yeah, but legal should be inserted before the word arrangement in the first line of subsection 1 and the second to last line of subsection 1. And the words or circumvent should be added after the word avoid in the third line. Madam Deputy Speaker, I don't have any other suggestions with regard to this amendment. Thank you very much.
The chair recognizes the honourable member from Marco City.
Before I agree with the amendment, I just wanted to hear what the government side has to say with respect to that, and then I'll have a brief statement and take my seat.
Madam Speaker.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
A bit unorthodox, since what is happening clearly is trying to be as collaborative as possible to get the best results. The answer to the first assertion is both 3 and 4 are necessary, because 3 changes the head note, and what 4 then does is to delete the actual content of the section and replace it with those. So that would be the reasoning on that. The suggestion to the amendment to sub-clause 1 is meant to catch all arrangements, legal or otherwise. Because it would be a curious thing if I could avoid disclosure simply by saying this is an illegal arrangement, so I don't have to tell you about it. So that is the reasoning there, Madam Speaker. But we do appreciate the positive engagement.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for St. Ives.
The government member did not indicate whether or not the words or circumvent were considered, and considering that the subheading, the heading of this section has actually been amended from anti-avoidance to anti-avoidance or anti-circumvention, and there's no mention of the word circumvent or circumvention in the actual revised section. I'm wondering what the relevance of putting in the words anti-circumvention were.
Thank you, honourable member.
Madam Speaker.
That was inserted.
Doesn't add anything. No, consider.
Consider?
No,
Considered.
it's-
Considered.
it's,
Considered.
Unless the anti-avoidance or anti-circumvention. Avoidance means you're seeking to get out of it. Circumvention suggests something else, but when you read it, it says the main purpose of the main purpose, or one of the main purposes of which can reasonably be considered to be to avoid an obligation imposed, then you're caught under the Act.
Okay,
And
thank
it's
you.
regardless of how you describe it. Lawyers make quite a lot of money arguing about whether something is included in a description. And the head note actually doesn't provide words. It is an aid to interpretation, though, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Marco City.
Good. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Once again, I'd like to thank Almighty God for this opportunity to be here and to thank the people of Marco City. I only rise to agree with the amendment of the Automatic Exchange Financial Account Information Amendment Bill 2024. Madam Speaker, I'd like to, again, reiterate a point that we raised strongly yesterday to say to those members of the public that may have missed our comments yesterday that we stand in solidarity with any government that is doing at least two things. One is to make sure that as a jurisdiction, we are compliant with the international regulations, that when we are out of step with the vast majority of them at any point, it could, again, damage our financial services sector. But as has been indicated yesterday and again this morning, the Bahamas is one of those countries that is in that rare category of being compliant with the vast majority of the international regulations that govern financial jurisdictions. We, in fact, are more compliant than many of those countries that are members of the OECD that continues to establish a moving goalpost that countries like the Bahamas, small island developing states who have offshore jurisdictions or offshore industry and financial services, we are continued to be bullied by the Europeans in particular, but not exclusively. And so, Madam Speaker, we stand with the government to ensure that we are, in fact, compliant. And then secondly, we support efforts made in the international arena by successive administrations to draw to the attention of the global community the unfair practices of those countries, many of whom, actually all of whom, are members of the G20, who continue to exert their influence on jurisdictions such as ours. Madam Speaker, I would just like to mention a couple of persons before I take my seat. One of them is Kim Bodie, who has played a pivotal role in assisting any number of Bahamians in qualifying to become members of the International Compliance Association or to qualify as money laundering reporting officers. I had the honor of being one of her students for 2 years as I became a member of the International Compliance Association. I would also like to thank Cherise Cox-Nottage, who played a trick on me by encouraging me as a human resources development consultant. I was doing training, Madam Speaker, for many companies in a variety of areas, including financial services, but mainly soft skills. And she convinced me that you should pick up another area you can do training in. Why don't you just get the ICA designation? She did not tell me fully at the time that that would take 2 years to get. And so I ended up in a course for a 2-year period, but it was tremendously fulfilling. And I had no idea that one day I would be in this place working in a bipartisan way, Freetown and Exuma, with the government of the Bahamas to make sure that our jurisdiction is compliant, but at the same time, we're speaking truth to power to those countries who themselves, while not compliant, are insisting on our country being compliant. I'd also finally, Madam Speaker, like to congratulate Ambassador Her Excellency Cheryl Bazard. As many of you are aware, Cheryl Bazard was a part of a group of money laundering reporting officers or persons who had expertise in the broader compliance regulatory regime, who traveled internationally to train persons in other countries. So one of the outcomes of that suite of legislation that was introduced when we were in power was it shifted our jurisdiction in a significant way, and it created a whole new category of professionals. And that one of those categories is the creation of a host of money laundering reporting officers. Cheryl Bazard, I remember vividly, was on the front end of that movement to create Bahamian professionals who travel globally to make a difference in this sector. Having said that, Madam Speaker, once again, the opposition supports this amendment.
Thank you, Honourable Member. As many?
The question be put.
It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to amend the Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information Act. As many are in favor, will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. Ordered that the bill be read for a second time and committed.
A bill for an act to amend the Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information Act.
For the second readings, the chair recognizes the honourable member for Engliston.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am most pleased to stand in this honorable House on behalf of the good people of Engliston to move the second reading of this bill, the National Maritime Education Bill. Madam Speaker, we are bringing legislation which places front and center an economic paradigm that presents limitless opportunities for young people in this country. Indeed, we've already seen significant economic impact from this sector. And as we speak, young, bright, talented Bahamians are on tankers, cruise ships, and in an array of areas and fields in this industry, both nationally and globally. But while significant growth has been made, we still have yet to fully capitalize on the possibilities this sector offers, the potentiality and the immense opportunities that lie in this sector, just waiting to be seized. To achieve these objectives requires us to be purposeful, sustained, and intentional in our pursuit of capturing the many rich and diverse dimensions that exist in the maritime sector. It is only reasonable, therefore, Madam Speaker, that we should pursue this course of action with great deliberation. Madam Speaker, although perhaps we do not envision ourselves as such, we are in truth a maritime people. We are an archipelagic people surrounded by ocean and seas. This is a fact, geographical fact. We are a small island developing state, which is also low-lying and therefore vulnerable on a number of fronts. We also have a considerable diversity as we speak in the maritime sector. Our ports of entry welcome premier cruise ships, 10 million tourists, I think, last year, making us one of the largest cruise destinations in the world. We play a significant role in the facilitation of world trade by way of a container terminal port in Freeport, Grand Bahama, which serves as a major hub for worldwide transshipment of containerized cargo. The Bahamas hosts a ship repair and dry docking facility with a maximum lifting capacity of close to 90,000 tons, including 3 floating dry docks, and ships come from all over the world to Grand Bahama. We have placed a premium on maritime training and education of our youth population. The Bahamas government, through the auspices of the Bahamas Maritime Authority and in collaboration with the Bahamas ship owners, have created a basic maritime training program called the Maritime Cadet Corps, which trains young men and women in high schools throughout the country, as well, some are now, but over the many years. Further and higher education in the maritime field is also supported in partnership with the domestic and international institutions for the training of young Bahamian maritime professionals. And as I have previously alluded, our young people have performed exceptionally well, both locally and in the international arena of the sector. We have also produced our first certified manning agency. I don't know if there's more than one still, owned and operated by 2 young maritime professionals, which facilitate placement of appropriately trained Bahamians on vessels. Previously, that did not exist. We also have a heightened understanding of the technical, commercial, and safety and security issues that relate to world shipping. and the Minister of Maritime Affairs will speak, and she will tell you that the Bahamas has one of the largest ship registries in the world. And we have sought to uphold, and she will tell you, the highest standards of quality and regulatory compliance. The Bahamas flag oversees a diverse ship portfolio, from the largest and most modern cruise ships designs to the largest bulk carriers and tankers and reefers to the most technologically advanced ships, which extract mineral resources from the seabed under the Bahamas flag. We also have developed a maritime policy after full and comprehensive national consultation, becoming one of the few countries in the world that has done so. The preamble of that maritime policy reminds us that, and I quote, "The Commonwealth of the Bahamas has rights and responsibilities of over approximately 245,000 square miles of maritime space, along with associated living and non-living marine resources, such as fisheries, aggregates, and potentially oil and gas." And I think the Prime Minister spoke yesterday about seagrasses as being critical in carbon credits and in overall environmental health. These provide valuable economic, social, and cultural benefits, and I'm still quoting, which can, if managed wisely, contribute to the sustainable economic development of the Bahamas. This is what the policy mandates. Sustainable utilization and management of our maritime space is critical to the long-term socio-economic development of the Bahamas, and the sustained supply of these important goods and services rely on a quality environment, end quote. The maritime policy, and it's referenced in the Act, and so I spent a little time on it, focuses on various components of the industry, which includes the following: international maritime instruments, national legislation, national administration, maritime safety, which includes surveys and inspections, delegation of inspection duties to recognized organizations, fishing vessel safety, radio communication, aids to navigation, search and rescue, dangerous goods, and marine casualty investigations, marine environmental protection, marine pollution control, civil liability and compensation for oil pollution, the facilitation of maritime traffic, documentation and procedural forms, maritime port and safety, IMO focal point, the training of seafarers, and the training of personnel serving in maritime administrations. These are the areas of concern of the national maritime policy. This maritime policy is a blueprint which has created a framework for the rational and sustainable exploitation of our marine resource for the social, environmental, scientific, and economic health and prosperity of the Bahamian people. It also underscores the critical relevance of this natural resource to our progress as a nation, to the improvement in the quality of life for Bahamians, by maximizing the sustainable utilization of a natural resource that is in abundant supply, and so globally positions the Bahamas archipelago as an economic force. Madam Speaker, the underlying impetus of this bill is, and I quote, it's taking directly from the bill, to cause for the progression of economic growth and national development of the maritime sector in the Bahamas. In particular, it seeks to bolster and solidify maritime training of our young people as a centralized activity in our national life, and to provide a coordinated thrust to this end. The strategy exemplified in this legislation is to cement a partnership between the LJM Institute and the government to confer and formally recognize that institute in its role in training and education of persons in the maritime sector in the Bahamas, and to do so at international standards. And very importantly, hence the importance of this bill, by making this training, and I quote, more accessible and affordable to young persons in this country. This legislation seeks to provide, by Clause 4, that the Minister of Education will enter into a partnership agreement with the LJM Institute, referred to in the bill as the Academy. So the Academy is the LJM. This arrangement will specify the functions of the Academy the financial arrangements between the government and the academy, the number of students who will be admitted at no cost to the student. I'm going to repeat that. The number of students who will be admitted at no cost to the student. This is the next level, Madam Speaker. The number of students, the number of faculty to be funded, and the academic and certification programs. By Clause 4.2 of the Academy shall be guided by the National Maritime Policy, as I have referred. And I think that is Clause 11. And it speaks to, this is how the arrangement works. The minister may, after consultation with the minister responsible for maritime affairs, give directions to the board as to the national maritime policy, as may appear to the minister to be required for the instruction and training to be carried out by the academy. Lost my space here now. Additionally, Madam Speaker, the Clause 5.2 of the bill mandates that at the high school level, this bill places obligation on the Minister of Education to ensure that training and focused instruction must be implemented in an effort to promote advanced maritime studies and to fulfill objectives of the Act. It also provides, though, by Clause 10.2, a counter obligation on the Academy, and provides that the Academy shall collaborate and cooperate with secondary level institutions to broaden the awareness and knowledge of the maritime sector in an effort to promote advanced maritime studies and thus to fulfill the objectives of this Act. So this is creating access at the tertiary level at the Academy, but it also is causing for the engendering of training through a cooperative effort between the Academy and the government, the Ministry of Education, of high school students in the maritime sector. Despite this partnership and what I will call a synergistic relationship, the Academy will remain autonomous, and the affairs are to be governed by the Board of Directors, and Clause 6 of the bill speaks to that. Clause 7 of the bill provides that the government will pay annually to the Academy such funds that are agreed to be utilized in accordance with the agreement and to fulfill the objectives of the agreement. This is referring also to access to students without cost, and also to the policy engagement on the maritime policy and the shared objectives and goals of maritime education in the country. Clause 8.1 of the bill provides that the instruction and training at the Academy will be to qualify and equip persons with the knowledge and skills to function and excel in the domestic industry nationally and globally, and to provide training for persons employed in shore-based shipping, etc. By Clause 8.2 of the bill, the Academy will be responsible for establishing and maintaining facilities, appointing faculty and administrative staff as is necessary, determining and improving programs, courses of training, research, including providing for the welfare of students at the Academy. So in the autonomy of this arrangement, the Academy will have jurisdiction on these matters. And I've already indicated the government's role in our partnership. By Clause 9, the Academy will be empowered and responsible to examine, certify, award diplomas, degrees, to determine and prescribe fees, to direct and conduct discipline, and other matters affecting students. They do that now autonomously, but as we are now engaged in this partnership, they will retain that role. Clause 11 provides that the minister may give directions as to policy, and I've indicated that, including directions as to the national maritime policy after consultation with the Minister for Maritime Affairs. But such policy directions are not permitted in relation to the appointment, termination of faculty or staff, admission of students, evaluation, discipline, certification, etc. So it establishes the relationship between the two entities. Pursuant to Clause 12, the Academy is required to keep proper accounts and prepare annual financial reports, which must be provided to the minister no later than 3 months after the financial year. Clause 12 also provides that the minister is obliged to lay a copy of that report in both chambers of the Parliament to ensure accountability and the use of public funds and the overarching goal of the pursuit of maritime education. For those who may not know, the LJM Institute is a 14-acre, state-of-the-art, wireless green campus situated just beyond the area of Arawak Key and the container port. It's a bridge that goes over. It is an no comment. It is a non-profit tertiary institution licensed under the Companies Act, offering full-time vocational training for deck, navigation, and engine seafarers, and has done so for many years now. Training is offered in basic and advanced standards of training, certification of watchkeeping for seafarers, the STCW training. The institution is accredited by the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, registered with NACOR. It has articulation agreements with BTVI, the Caribbean Maritime University, State University of New York, University of the Bahamas, to name a few. Madam Speaker, the facility is amazing in its technical equipment and highly trained instructors, and is equipped with an engine workshop, with ARC welding stations, milling and lathe machines, high-tech classrooms, laboratory, state-of-the-art simulators, which I put my hand in myself, firefighting, engine, and navigation. It is the brainchild of Lowell Mortimer, and from its early beginnings and groundbreaking, I was there. I went to the groundbreaking, but it has gone from an idea and from strength to strength, and has sparked a spirit of excellence in perhaps thousands of young Bahamians under the leadership of Dr. Brenda Clare. She is a professor of mathematics, no less, who entered this maritime world and has, in conjunction with her stellar team, created a center of excellence at global standards. And I just want to recognize in the gallery, I'm wondering if Dr. Brenda May Clare would stand. That's a woman leader. That ain't a woman's dem. That's a woman leader. Yeah. I don't do the woman dem talk, because I know what that is. This is a woman who leads that institute, and she does so in outstanding fashion. And she has with her, and I'm wondering if they could stand as their names are called, Willa Mae Johnson, Sean Miller, Shamika Duncombe, Captain Ramaya, and I hope I'm not missing anyone, we have with us also Cheryl Cartwright, attorney, and then we have the cadets. Let me know if I'm missing anyone, please. Andrew Ramming, Lakeisha Hamilton, Aaliyah Stewart, Carmelo Archer, Janae Jones, Joshua Poitier. I think I missed out someone. No, never. I got everybody. You see how good they look? The maritime sector is no joke, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Dr. Clare has actually been a primary driver of the outcomes reflected in this legislation. And we welcome her and we thank her for her service, and we look forward to this going to new levels and taking the country in a very powerful direction in the maritime sector. Madam Speaker, national development cannot occur through happenstance or by a series of ad hoc interventions or by political rhetoric and bluster. As Lyndon Pendling often reminded us, never mind the noise in the market. Look at the price of the fish. And as we say, talk is cheap, money buy land. There has to be a progressive vision accompanied by diligent execution and the realization of the desired end. Its import must be the empowerment of our people, the preservation of our national dignity, a people who are enabled to take the reins of their own collective destiny, a people who are the subjects, not the objects, of national development. all that we do, Madam Speaker, must inure to the positive advancement and prosperity of our people. The governance undertaking is accomplished through the training, preparation, and building of capacity of our people. Building of capacity of our people, which in education begins with simply literacy and numeracy as a simple tenet, but much more. In all spheres of endeavor and economic activity, in our public schools, we have undertaken in earnest the beginning of this process of the maritime training through a series of technical and vocational programs. And beginning in September, these programs will be introduced at the primary school level as an introduction and orientation for young people. Our polytechnic, which is under development as I speak right now, as I speak in this honorable house, will be the center of innovation and excellence, providing access to technical and vocational training, including maritime training, in conjunction with the academy, as is mandated in this bill. And speaking of that, Madam Speaker, did anyone notice my lectern? Yes. You noticed it? Yes. This lectern, it's special? Yes. It's special. This lectern is the product of the handiwork or the handwork of Vernon Jones, who's the deputy head boy at Government High School. He created this, built this, and he's an honor student. He built this in the carpentry and joinery class. And his teacher is Melvern Miller. And this is a beautifully, and this is a teenager, a boy in high school. And this is only exemplary of the possibility of our young people. And there's so many examples over and over. In fact, I was listening to the radio this morning, and I heard these young men, they were 21 and 22. They are the climate ambassadors. One was the son of Senator Halkitis. I have to tell you, Madam Speaker, the intelligence, the rationality, the progressive thinking, honestly, it stopped me in my steps. Brilliant young people. And this is what we have to come to a realization of who we are and what we are. I was speaking with Cheryl Cartwright outside, and she said that even children that come into the program that you say, oh boy, they ain't got this, that, with the training, with the input, what is produced is spectacular. And this is why education is so important, because we must refine to the purest essence, and not just in high school, throughout the entire process, technical and vocational, academic, wherever it is, the apprenticeship, refine to the purest essence, who our young people are. But that listening on the radio this morning, I was mind blown, because they understood the mission, and it makes me know that the future of this nation is going to be in incredibly good hands, and I believe better hands than we see in right now, including mine. I am confident of that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we are first and foremost a maritime people. Now, in fully conceptualizing and embracing our reality as a maritime people, we must ensure as a primary tenet that our children can swim. Okay? We're surrounded by water. This is a dissonance. This is a dysfunction that we're seeing in this country. And indeed, and sadly, just a few days ago, case in point, our hearts were pained to learn that a young and promising high school student drowned. And we know from past experience, particularly in this summer period, young lives are lost through drownings in ponds, at the beach, in canals, in swimming pools. The groundbreaking at Government High, Senior High School, of the site for a first ever swimming pool signaled our commitment to reverse this dilemma. It wasn't just a photo opportunity. It is part of the purposeful, targeted policy. It is our obligation to see what we have and what's going on and to respond and take it forward to the next level. That is our role as government, those of us who are in government. We're not just here to spin the wheels and profile. We must take the nation forward. I want to thank, and this swimming pool policy will be replicated in several other schools in the ensuing months. I want to thank the Fox Foundation in particular, and all of the stakeholders who support this important initiative. I want to give special recognition to Andy and Nancy Knowles, who have long before now, for years, been working with children in our public primary school system in New Providence. Madam Speaker, this legislation is a new chapter of a new script for our people and provides for the integration of a cohesive and rational program for maritime training in the creation of new careers, exciting opportunities, and a mastery over the economy. This bill, in short and simply, signifies a national commitment, Madam Speaker. I'm wearing my pin here, every child counts. This is our credo in the Ministry of Education. No matter the circumstances, every child counts. I urge our community to do all that is possible during this summer period to ensure that our children are safe and happy, free from harm or exploitation, and poised to enter a new school year where they will further develop their valuable and incredible potential. Yes, our marine environment is a precious resource, but no resource is more precious than our children and young people. So in this regard, and in this vein, as a proud citizen of this maritime nation, I am proud to move for a second reading of the National Maritime Education Bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Is there a seconder? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Elizabeth.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise on behalf of the good people of the Elizabeth constituency who have sent me here to represent them, and I thank them for the opportunity. I rise to second the debate on the National Maritime Instruction and Training Bill 2024. As a small island developing state, Madam Speaker, the Bahamas is considered a maritime nation. We depend on the shipping sector to provide our nation with the goods and commodities our communities need and require. In recent times, the maritime industry has become extremely concerned about the development and education of young persons in the sector. Importantly, there is a growing recognition that an effective and efficient global maritime industry requires strong instruction and training programs. The National Maritime Instruction and Training Bill 2024 will provide a strong foundation for instruction and training in the Bahamas. Therefore, I wish to advise from the onset that I fully support this bill. Madam Speaker, the bill is the first of its kind. This is indeed historic and revolutionary. It is a document for the maritime and education sectors of the Bahamas. And I just want to state that this government, I mean, I'm so proud to serve with this government, with my cabinet colleagues, my parliamentary colleagues that just understand the importance of development in our country. We've had conversations, the Minister of Education, who, of course, I am following in her footsteps, carrying on this mandate in transport, but conversations with education, conversations with LJM, with BMA, with the Ministry of Transport, to lead to this day, to bring this bill, and so I am so excited to second it. As we debate the bill, it's important to bear in mind that the Bahamas is a party to the International Convention on Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping for Seafarers. The convention applies to seafarers, ship owners, training establishments, and national maritime administrations. The convention prescribes minimum standards relating to training, certification, and watching keep for seafarers, which countries are obliged to meet or exceed. The convention also helps and enforces a series of standards for the safekeeping of shipping, environment, and keeping the oceans clean. Additionally, having been re-elected to Category C of the International Maritime Organization, the Bahamas is viewed as a leader in the industry. Category C includes countries not elected under Category A and B, and includes countries who have been special interests in maritime transport or navigation, and in whose election to the Council will ensure the representation of all major geographic areas of the world. As a leader, the Bahamas must be seen as having a robust training maritime program. Excellence must be our hallmark. It is therefore my submission as the Minister of Energy and Transport that the bill before us will solidify our nation's compliance with the International Convention on Standards of Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping for Seafarers and expand our reputation in the maritime field. Madam Speaker, beyond compliance with the international conventions, our leadership position in the International Maritime Organization, the bill also builds on the provision of the National Maritime Policy. The Maritime Policy, which was birthed in 2015 under the leadership of the Member of Parliament for Angliston, called for more training in the maritime sector. I tell you, I follow in your lead, man. I only could make it better, you know. You left some big, heavy hits. Going a bit further, Madam Speaker, the bill also represents the fulfillment of a commitment made in our blueprint for change. It is our party's policy agenda 2021. We promise to establish public-private partnerships with maritime academies. Madam Speaker, we have delivered on that commitment. It is also noteworthy, Madam Speaker, that to state that successive progressive Liberal Party administrations have always been strong initiators and supporters of the development of the maritime sector. In 1977, the first vessel registered in the Bahamas occurred under a PLP government. In 2004, again, my colleague from Angliston, the Bahamas Maritime Cadet Corps was established to prepare high school students of grade 10 through 12 for employment in the maritime industry. In 2015, I remind you again, the National Maritime Policy was launched and established. In 2022, we welcome our largest ship and the first ever floating LNG vessel on our registry. These accomplishments in the maritime field are significant, and while not an exhaustive list, it stands as a testament to our commitment to the maritime industry. At the heart of this National Maritime Instruction Training Bill 2024 is a partnership with the LJM Maritime Academy. As my colleague noted, those in the gallery, led by the one and only Brenda Clare, the woman leader. Since inception, Madam Speaker, scores of Bahamian students have been trained by the LJM Maritime Academy, and they have noted in the gallery some of our cadets that have been connected to the Academy. The LJM Maritime Academy is the only tertiary level training institution in the Bahamas that provides a unique and holistic learning experience designed along two strands, engineering or navigation, either for cadets or ratings. The navigation and marine engineering programs follow the framework of model courses from the International Maritime Organization and have been approved by the Bahamas Maritime Authority. The Academy is accredited by the Ministry of Education, Technical and Vocational Training, and offers courses in areas such as meteorology, maritime law, ship stability, marine environment, and ship stability. The partnership will allow for the extension of training programs at the LJM Maritime Academy and make maritime education more accessible for Bahamians. The Minister of Education spoke about the access Bahamians have with no cost. So that's access that if they had to pay and did not have it, they wouldn't be able to access it. So I wish to take this opportunity to assure the leadership of the LJM Maritime Academy that my ministry is aware that there are still some challenges, some which just arise and some that had been around for some time. But one of which I want to say that we are looking at ways to address is the issue of our bridge that provides access, we're talking about access now, to the training facility. And that has been an issue and a concern for many years, but it just arose again recently because we had an incident in that area. And so my ministry is fully engaged with the Ministry of Works and with the LJM leadership so that we could provide some support and bring that issue to being a non-issue, right? So, Madam Speaker, robust maritime training program can produce excellent seafarers. A well-trained and experienced seafarer can earn a decent salary. I have to remind our people, come to this sector. The salaries are good and decent. By investing in the expansion of the maritime training opportunities, we are contributing to the financial well-being of Bahamian citizens in the long term. The maritime industry is vast and encompasses various sectors, each with its own salary structure. Some sectors such as offshore and cruise ships, merchant shipping, and tugboats offer decent wages. It should be noted that factors such as rank, experience, nationality, and ship type can also influence your earnings. For example, a master captain in the merchant shipping sector can earn between, listen now, Bahamians, $8,000 to $14,000 per month. Wow. Per month. Seriously? While a junior officer may earn $2,000 to $6,000 per month. I was in that business, I better look at it. A captain on a large yacht can earn between $10,000 to $20,000 per month, while a junior officer may earn between $3,000 to $6,000 per month. I cite the possible earnings of seafarers to clearly highlight that by investing in maritime training programs, we are contributing to the well-being of young Bahamians and provide a platform for their future stability. Yes. The bill is important, and I strongly believe that in the future, this bill would be seen as one of the critical drivers of the local maritime training apparatus. Madam Speaker, I now turn my attention to some of the provisions of the bill, and my colleague did do a good job, so I don't have to really belabor the point, but I want to hit on one or two things. First, outlined in Section 3, the objectives. Establish a public-private partnership with LJM Maritime Academy to make instruction and training in maritime more accessible and affordable. To promote the Academy globally as an institute in the region leading in maritime instruction and training. to designate the Academy as the nationally recognized institute for maritime instruction and training in the Bahamas, and advance the social and economic growth of the Bahamas by developing the maritime sector. Madam Speaker, I also want to look at under Section 10, the Academy may collaborate with other agencies and institutions. Under the partnership, the LJM Academy can participate in exchange programs with any other institution or body and partner with other academic institutions or body to strengthen its academic programs and intellectual capacity. Madam Speaker, I believe that the ability for the Academy to collaborate with local and international institutions is a very important provision, as it will ensure that our Bahamian maritime students have deeper networking opportunities and will be able to learn from the best trainers in the field. I think it was just last week I was invited to on board a vessel that came in to port at the Nassau Cruise Port by the Sunny Maritime University out of New York. And on that vessel, we had 8 Bahamian cadets studying in Sunny Maritime. And it just shows that this collaboration that the LJM Academy, through the support of the government, through the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Transport, will lead to our Bahamians having more access to these sort of programs and being on vessels, porting in at different countries all over the place. Just make sure you come home now. Don't get too excited with all of the ports you're seeing over the world and you forget your ports home. Bring that education and that training, that knowledge home. And under Section 11, Madam Speaker, the Education Minister may, after consultation with the Minister responsible for Maritime Affairs, give directions to the Board as to the National Maritime Policy, as may be required for instruction and training to be carried out by the Academy. Now, this provision is important as it will ensure that training programs at the LJM remain relevant to local and global trends, just for relevance to make sure we're staying in the loop. And observations in the maritime industry ensure that our national priorities are achieved. Madam Speaker, the bill is an important and empowering piece of legislation. As I said before, it is revolutionary. Indeed, the maritime field is growing, and there are tremendous opportunities for young Bahamians. The Bahamas flag, which comprises of over 1,500 ships totaling more than 63 million gross tonnage, is 8th largest ship registry, the largest flag for passenger ships, and one of the largest flags for gas carriers. I encourage young Bahamians to embrace a career in the maritime industry and to register with the LJM Academy. The Ministry of Transport and the Bahamas Maritime Authority are aggressively working to deepen our footprint in the field. We have a plan to take the maritime industry to the next level. And we believe that as a small island state, we must be deliberate and strategic in the way that we operate. I can attest that the Bahamas is seeing more invitations to partner in international forums, which is not only increasing our profile in the maritime sector, but we're also demonstrating that the Bahamas is at the pulse of some of the major concerns in the industry, such as expanding female involvement in the sector and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So we are working on some of our key priorities in the BMA, the continuation of efforts to add and develop our human resources to meet the ever-increasing specialized regulatory demands that come with our nation being a major flag state. Growing the registry. We have representation over in Greece and Asia, and I've met with our ship owners in Greece, and they're pleased to advise that they will be adding more ships to our registry because they are still very proud of the representation that they receive from the Bahamas Maritime Authority. I also wish to brag a little that we got the largest cruise ship to be registered with us just as lately, Icon of the Seas. is registered as a new fleet on our registry and growing our tonnage daily as we meet with more of our ship owners. And as those ships are ready and completed and put off the dry dock into the water, we grab them and put them on our registry to fly our flag. We're collaborating with different industry bodies and administrations on critical maritime matters affecting shipping, deepening our national capacity through support of the Bahamas Maritime Cadet Corps with engagement with ship owners to secure further training and career opportunities. We're providing leadership on the greenhouse gas reduction and decarbonization within the shipping industry, ensuring engagement with ship owners and industry bodies, including the Bahamas Ship Owners Association, the International Chamber of Shipping, and Cruise Line International Association. Indeed, these are very exciting times to be in the maritime sector, and the passage of this bill will only add to the excitement. In September, Madam Speaker, we will observe Maritime Day. And the theme of this year's celebration is navigating the future, safety first. And I find it very telling that on the day set aside to raise awareness of the maritime sector, that the word future is clearly included. The word future signifies the time ahead. With the bill, we are preparing for the future, the times ahead. The future of the maritime industry is with our young Bahamians. And with this bill, we are increasing the opportunity for them to have access. As I take my seat, I want to share how proud I am of the Bahamian Maritime Cadets and to encourage all young Bahamians to pursue their dream and passions. This bill is intended to empower Bahamians and provide greater access to maritime training and instruction to all maritime cadets and those thinking about becoming maritime cadets. I want to encourage you to make the best of the opportunities as the world awaits and needs your contribution. In moments of doubt and challenges, please remember that a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. A good sailor is the one who has witnessed all the obstacles in the sea, yet managed to reach the shore. Do not allow tough situations to break you. After all, good leaders are born from overcoming hardships. I support the Maritime Cadets, and I strongly support the National Maritime Instruction and Training Bill 2024. I second this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to establish a public-private partnership between the government of the Bahamas and the LGM Maritime Academy to facilitate the progression of economic growth and national development of the maritime sector in the Bahamas. As many in favor, Long Island, ready to pass.
Speaker. Speaker, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, firstly, it's an honor and a privilege to be here to represent the great people of Long Island. Hardworking, most hardworking, dedicated, loyal, most respectable people. I'm honored to represent them. Madam Speaker, firstly, I want to extend condolences to a few of my constituents, to Mr. Vernal Tappy Adderley and his sister Ruth, and all of the siblings on the passing of his brother Alfred. I extend my sincerest sympathies. I also want to extend birthday wishes to Reverend Urban Knowles. Reverend Knowles, I chatted with him this week, and he is as sharp as a tack. He turned 97 this week, 97. And when I say he's on top of his game, Madam Speaker, he's on top of his game, you know? I told him I hope he lives to see another 97, you know? Madam Speaker, I note in the gallery, Miss Cartwright, Cheryl Cartwright. You know, I haven't seen Miss Cartwright since my days at Calendars. I haven't seen her since 2017 when I came over on this side. Miss Cartwright, it's so good to see you. You know, it's been a long time. You know, she was one of the partners and a consultant at Calendars when I was there. Madam Speaker, let me say that I lend 100% support to this bill. 100%. This academy, which is the brainchild of Mr. Lowell Mortimer. You know, I have a story with Mr. Mortimer of my own, Lowell Mortimer, a great, great Bahamian. Mr. Mortimer, you know, when I was going to law school, Mr. Mortimer's foundation, the Freedom Foundation, and Angleston, you might have heard about the Freedom Foundation. I went to law school on a scholarship from the Freedom Foundation. And so Mr. Mortimer and his foundation is partly responsible for me being able to become an attorney at law. Madam Speaker, I know, given his track record in shipping and otherwise, that whatever he puts his hand to, it will yield great returns. Madam Speaker, you know, as I read through this bill, I thought to myself, and I said this to, I think, the managing director, you know, I wonder if one day, as we move to educate and train individuals in the maritime sector, you know, LJM would consider possibly establishing satellite campuses, expanding to the Family Islands, where we have this vast amount of water, persons in fishing and sailing and so on and so forth. I think that would be awesome. You know, so, you know, I hope that you consider that at some point in the very near future. This bill underscores the development of our human capital, which is our most important national and natural resource. You know, you look at Japan. The Japanese had a nuclear bomb dropped on them, and they immediately charged ahead with educating and developing their human capital, where today, and for many years, over the last few decades, Japan has been a first world country, leading in technology and leading in the production of vehicles and various other industries. And so that is the perfect example of what could happen when you focus on the development of your human capital, and I believe that this bill does that here today. You know, when sailing became the national sport, me being from one of the main sailing islands, I was so proud, you know, and I'd like to see sailing expand more into the schools, right, where we have more and more persons getting into boat building and sailing, and I know that that is something that is afoot. But I'm pleased to see that we today are looking at how we can train Bahamians in maritime, because many of us, Madam Speaker, growing up on the islands, and I'm an island boy, many of us growing up, you know, we were on the water. We know how to travel the sea, and we all learned, and I'm sure the member for Central and South Eleuthera can speak to this as well, we all learned how to pilot a boat, or as we say on the islands, drive a boat, okay? We all know how to drive a boat. You know, that was second nature. But one of the things many of us don't have would be the official qualifications, the paperwork to support us having the licenses and so on. We know what to do. We just don't have the requisite licenses. I remember in 2020, I got a gift. I requested I got a gift to go to a company called Shipmate. And this company was where I was supposed to officially train to get my captain's license. The problem was I didn't have time. And so if anyone is listening from Shipmate, I hope that you all will still honor that. I will make the time at some point to come in so that I can officially get my training for my captain's license. You know what to do. You just don't have the license to be out there. You know, and I think that what LJM is seeking to do, for those of us who know what to do, for those who don't know what to do, is empower you and equip you with that knowledge, that information, and set you on a path where you can actually use that to build a career, to make a living long term. Madam Speaker, you know, the Bahamas, we are a major shipping center. We are a major center for shipping. Obviously, we have a very large ship registry. But one of the things I've been saying over the years is that we should look to monetize our shipping lanes, because there's much traffic that got to pass through our waters to get to the Gulf, to get to Florida, etc. You know, container ships, tankers with oil and so on and so forth, they got to pass in and out of our waters. So I think one of the things we have to look to do is see how we could possibly monetize that.
Yes.
You can't go through Panama and the other canals without paying a fee. So I believe, given the archipelagic nature of the Bahamas and our perfect positioning where we are, that is something that we should look to explore. Madam Speaker, when I looked at Clause 4 of the bill, I spoke about the number of students being instructed and trained on an annual basis at no cost to the student. That is awesome, that is welcome, especially as a family islander. But I wonder if, you know, because I know that there'll be a lot of people taking advantage of this, and they should. But I wonder if there'll be space reserved for maybe family island students, a certain amount of seats, for example, so that, you know, Nassau obviously is the population center, and there'll be quite a number of persons wanting to do that, but those of us on these islands, until LJM expands to these islands, maybe reserving some seats to get a quota of family islanders who would like to come in and take advantage of this wonderful opportunity. Madam Speaker, I note, you know, when it comes to funding, it speaks about funding. One of the great concerns that we always have is underfunding in the Bahamas. You know, it doesn't say what the allocation will be for the academy. I think it's something that would have to be agreed. However, I hope that as we move forward in seeing this PPP come to fruition, that we properly fund the academy so that it can take on a number of students throughout the archipelago and provide them with opportunities. I don't know if these students would have to find their own housing. I don't know if the academy is able to do so, but be it as it may, to get that education free, you know, once it's here, no one could ever take it back. Madam Speaker, I think the only concern I had was that Clause 11, which spoke about the minister may, after consultation with the minister responsible for maritime affairs, give directions to the board. My question would be, is this the board of the academy? And how can if it's a PPP, how can the minister of the government direct the LJM Institute board? So is this board independent? Is it private? Are there government appointees to this board? Those are a couple of questions that I would have as it relates to that clause. But Madam Speaker, I made some notes in my phone. Madam Speaker, I want to, as I close, highlight some of the observations I've made about this bill. I believe, Madam Speaker, that this bill and the training that will come from it being being passed, and these programs being rolled out and these opportunities being provided, this would lead to enhancing safety standards in the Bahamas. You know, when you implement these kind of programs, I believe it improves safety measures for maritime operations. Okay, persons can learn more about that. I believe that when you think about career opportunities, you know, you're setting a clear educational pathway, clear standards that could promote careers in the maritime sector among Bahamian citizens, boosting local employment, boosting employment on cruise ships, where Bahamians can work on cruise ships, boosting employment on container and transport ships, these same ships that go through our shipping lane, to our archipelago. You know, you think about environmental responsibility. I believe that, you know, and I hope that in the training modules they incorporate some environmental sustainability and best practices to ensure that marine activities in the Bahamas are conducted with minimal impact on the marine ecosystems. And then you think about global competitiveness, right? This training, the training that is being provided by LJM and this bill and what comes from that, I think heightens our global competitiveness. It aligns us more with international norms, you know, enhancing the competitive of Bahamian maritime professionals on the global stage. On the global stage, potentially attracting international or more international business to the Bahamas. And then, of course, infrastructure development. I believe that supporting this bill and supporting an institution like LJM could lead to infrastructure development. You know, you look at the possibility of LJM expanding, the possibility of persons getting into the shipping industry, expanding to the different islands. And so this benefits the local economy and local communities. And so, Madam Speaker, as I said earlier, my only concern was to ensure that there would be sufficient resources allocated for the implementation and to continue to maintain high-quality programs such as this. And, Madam Speaker, on that note, I recognize the potential this bill and this academy has to strengthening the maritime sector, to improving safety standard, and to positively contributing to our national economy and our environment. On that note, Madam Speaker, I support this bill, and I rest.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many, the Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Sports and Arts.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we had a delightful presentation from members of the LJM Maritime Academy last night during our caucus meeting in preparation for today. Two of the ladies who are here now had other commitments, but they made the sacrifice. I think that is the same intention that every member of the government side and the opposition side has with regard to doing what is right for our maritime industry, particularly those that are now studying at the LJM Maritime Academy here at former Coral World Island, now Maritime Key. I'm glad to have heard the Minister of Transport has undertaken to have that bridge safely repaired as part of this current or upcoming budget. There are other
Chair recognizes the Honorable
In
Member
my
for
mouth,
Elizabeth.
okay? I don't like when they do that. If the opposition want to make commitments as they're on their grandstanding campaign, they're free to do that. I stood on my feet and I said I am having discussions with the Minister of Works, and also Ministry of Transport is having discussions with LJM because the bridge has been an issue for many years, but a recent incident realized that we must try to find a way to address it. I never said anything about financial and budget and whatever. Okay? So I don't want anyone to put words in my mouth and try to be cute about it.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Well, Madam Speaker, the good member for Elizabeth had made quite a touching contribution earlier. I'll take responsibility for that abrupt change in the course of her time here today. But I know that the member who is the Minister for Transport, and following in the footsteps of the member from Engliston, as well as members of the Cabinet, will do their best, as has, I think, been identified as now under discussion, for that bridge. Not only is it very important for the persons that are studying at Maritime Key, but myself as a vessel owner, when you pass through Arawak, when you pass through Arawak Port and you don't wish to brave the swells from the deep ocean, Madam Speaker, you'll go right past Arawak Quay and you'll go under that bridge. And when you look under that bridge, I mean, there's rebar that's sort of weaving down. There's clearly chunks of concrete that have disappeared from the structure already. So aside from wondering if a vessel is going to come from the western point of Arawak Quay speeding through, Madam Speaker, you have to wonder if a chunk is going to drop on your head. Yeah, but it's the Speaker's house. No, it's the Speaker's house. Respect the
The chair
Speaker.
recognizes the honorable member for Central and South Eleuthera.
I want to speak to what the member for St. Anne's was speaking about. I will preempt and say that I did carry the full team of the Ministry of Works after the vessel collided with the bridge that caused this rebar to expose. I mean, the bridge was in a bad state as it was for a long time. We met with LJM, I think it was maybe 3 weeks ago. We had myself, the Parliamentary Secretary, member for South Beach, along with the full team of Ministry of Works, to discuss how we can assist them even prior to this legislation today. Being that I visited LJM a few years ago, was quite impressed, and when they reached out for us to look, we carried a full team there. We spoke about how we can not only look at demolishing the bridge, but also look at ways in which we can navigate to assist them in providing a new bridge. We didn't make any commitment to that, but I did tell them that we would do our best to at least remove the bridge to help with persons traveling under the bridge so that they won't be injured and things of that sort. Actually, I just received an email from Acting Director of Works, who we should have the quote for the removal of the bridge by next weekend. And once we get that, we will move to do what we have to do, and then after which we'll discuss with them, Ministry of Transport, on other ways, because it's going to be an expensive undertaking. They gave us their assessment in regards to what fuel they use, bringing students back and forth. So it's not something that's being neglected, something that's been there for a while, and we are on top of it.
Thank you, honorable member. You may continue.
Madam Speaker, the headline in the paper, one of the headlines in the Guardian paper this week was the PLP was ready for battle. But Madam Speaker, I'm just up here on my feet now trying to give a very, very short contribution. And they end up standing up and putting more of a break between what I have to say than a certified boxing match will give during rounds. So, Madam Speaker, if they're ready for battle, let me just say the few things that I wish to say. And I wholeheartedly support this bill. I know that this bill, through the public-private partnership, is going to bring funding to LGM Maritime Academy that'll assist greatly with the administrative side of things. There's high fees that go towards those that have sacrificed their time off the seas to teach in the school. So this is going to be a great step forward. In addition to the bridge matter, which has gotten too much attention, but it definitely deserves it. There's also an issue with their dormitory. You have a lot of Family Island students coming into LGM Maritime Academy that do not have long-term accommodation that can be counted on. And I'm sure the same is the case with students that come from the Family Islands, study at the University of Bahamas. If you come to LGM Maritime Academy from the Family Islands, you're dependent upon a family member for the most part that lives in New Providence. And if they're like me, Madam Speaker, having friends in chat groups is great. Having friends at your house past 12 is difficult, but having friends or family members in your house for more than 2 weeks can really change your point of view on it. And it rarely... It rarely works out long-term, Madam Speaker. So as we look to deal with the bridge, and government will cover costs where they can cover costs, but LGM Maritime Academy, because I did highlight LGM Maritime Academy, I think, in my first contribution as a rookie in this House, probably during the mid-year budget debate. In the Bahamas, we focused for decades on our tourism industry, on our financial services industry. And I didn't hear at the time, and I brought it up, that we need to focus on the maritime industry being our third industry that we really pump all the money, all the energy, all the planning into. And it's a long-term plan, Madam Speaker. It's fantastic. You look back at the history of LGM Maritime Academy, even before Campbell Shipping got involved. I think in 2003, there were summer programs. In 2008, these are different administrations there. In 2008, there was a program with the College of the Bahamas summer students being able to participate in collaboration with Campbell Shipping for summer programs in the maritime industry, exposure to them. We have a number of officers that are on international vessels. We have the deepest marina in the region, the biggest marina in the region that can accommodate the largest ships in the world, Madam Speaker. One administration to the other undoubtedly loves the Bahamas, undoubtedly loves the waters, and in my opinion, will continue to fully back the efforts of the students that are making tremendous sacrifice. It's not an area of expertise and certification that comes easily. A number of students that study at LGM Maritime Academy face the reality that they need to be working while they're studying. And unfortunately, the way that LGM Maritime Academy has such a compact course is that it's almost impossible to hold a job and study. So you'll see some students that will leave the program because they need to pay rent, for instance, maybe help out with family households. But once they can get through the course, which is an intense course, Madam Speaker, I know some members in this House couldn't pass the course that they provide, and I'm not saying that as an insult, but we all have different areas and avenues of academic excellence, and it's quite possible that I wouldn't pass their course, but like my friend from Long Island, I know how to drive a boat. But Madam Speaker, I say that to highlight the fact that those that are studying there, they are going through some very intense and difficult times. But if they can ever remember, I think the nation, the country, our Commonwealth of the Bahamas supports them entirely. And we're extremely proud of them, Madam Speaker. And as a member of the opposition, member of the government in waiting, I'll undertake to do what I can when in Cabinet, Madam Speaker, to ensure that LGM Maritime Academy is driven forward, to ensure that our cruising industry expands. The number of ships we have under our flag now, Madam Speaker, has not come since the member for Elizabeth became Minister of Transport, but has been built up over the years. And she's an exceptional member, Madam Speaker. She's an exceptional member, Madam Speaker. But we must, Madam Speaker, we must pick up all of those sea coins, as I would describe them, that are available right now, not just in the merchant shipping industry, but in the private yacht industry. Our private yacht industry, if you ask any of the marinas, have taken the hit. But let's make sure that we look at maritime as one of our biggest industries of the future, Madam Speaker. We have it right now. We have the archipelago. We have the sea channels. Madam Speaker, we all know we're in the tongue of the ocean. The world is watching us. We are on track to surpass the achievements of maritime academies in Jamaica, and we can be a regional leader, Madam Speaker. And we can be a regional leader not just for Bahamians, but we can be a regional leader for our fellow Caribbean and Lucayan Sea brothers and sisters that want to come here, study at LGM Maritime Academy, stay in the dormitories on school, and as they go out and travel the seas around the world, Madam Speaker, making those great salaries, some of that money will be coming back into the country, Madam Speaker. And it's also important that we look at the cost that that students at LJM Maritime Academy have to pay. I believe over a 2-year period, it's approximately $30,000, Madam Speaker. And I note 35. And I note, Madam Speaker, that we have 39 members of Parliament in the Honourable House of Assembly that at minimum collect around $28,000, $26,000 a year. So there's always opportunity for us to step forward and make a donation towards scholarship, as there is members of the Senate, as there is several other groups of industry Bahamians. Because every time one of these great certified officers leaves LJM Maritime Academy, Madam Speaker, they're representing the Bahamas all around the world. And I think we have maybe 1,500 ships right now under our flag. If we can hold firm to our target that I understand LJM Maritime Academy is recommending of 2 Bahamians on every one of our flag vessels, then we're going to be looking at about $56 million annually in salaries that Bahamians will be receiving from that industry. And it's very important that even if we're not on the vessels, even if we're not studying in LJM Maritime Academy, that we put our full support behind them. Because if you're from an archipelagic nation and you're capable on the seas, Madam Speaker, as my grandmother's grandfather was, he was a harbor pilot, Mr. Samuel Kemp, a man from Eleuthera. If we can rule the seas, Madam Speaker, we can rule the world. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Honourable Member Asmini. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for South Beach.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for recognizing me. Madam Speaker, allow me to begin by recognizing those persons in our gallery. As the member for Central and South Eleuthera, the Minister of Works and Family Island Affairs mentioned, we had an opportunity to visit the LJM Maritime Institute, and we met with Dr. Brenda Clare, who has been a mentor to my wife during her time at the University of the Bahamas. Ms. Willamette Johnson, it's good to see you, who has known me from I was much shorter. Sean. Sean, it's good to see you, sir. One of my contemporaries when I was at BPL. Glad to know that you're at the Institute making your contribution. And Madam Speaker, I don't like to brag, but one of them cadets is mine. One of them cadets from South Beach. I ain't gonna tell you which one. Yeah, that's how you do it in South Beach. You're on the cutting edge. Madam Speaker, thank you for allowing me to lend my voice to this contribution, to this bill, Madam Speaker, and for a brief time to defend and fight on behalf of the people of South Beach, the good, hard-working, industrious people of South Beach, Madam Speaker. Oftentimes, Madam Speaker, we stand and proclaim our gratitude to the members of our constituency for permitting us to stand. But saying thank you to the members of my constituency or to the people of my constituency is never a formality for me, Madam Speaker. I'm grateful that me, an ordinary man, can stand in this place and vigorously contend for a better and brighter Bahamas, and more specifically for a better and brighter South Beach. So, Madam Speaker, I will never not speak if given the opportunity. As I rise in this place with a sense of pride, while always remaining sensitive and making a great effort to ensure that what I say in this place is never seen as me being prideful, I do so with the intention of doing all that I can to represent ordinary people in an ordinary fashion, as possible and intentional, and that I'm seen doing it as an ordinary man. It is with this in mind, Madam Speaker, that I sought to offer in this debate. Because on the issue here of the National Maritime Education Bill 2024,
I want South Beach's utterances to be firmly on the record, Madam Speaker. In my opinion, Madam Speaker, this bill is a monumental one. In my mind's eye, it is revolutionary. This bill, Madam Speaker, is, for me, what a career in the Bahamas post 50 years of independence would look like, Madam Speaker. This bill, in my mind, removes the old concept as a child that we had, and to be honest, most of us may, if you're honest, you would agree with me. Most of us believe that as a young boy or young lady, we only, no matter how diverse or how talented we were, how technologically inclined or unconventionally skilled we were as young persons, we were told or we were taught that we only could be doctors, lawyers, bankers, or police. See, Madam Speaker, these were the only real professions according to the early Bahamians. Madam Speaker, since then, I think we all have realized that it would appear that doctors and lawyers, in my opinion, to be honest, they don't retire. And anecdotally, I mean, in jest, I would say this. I mean, my colleagues, please don't get upset with me. but I would say, but I would say on the other hand, they seem to never die either, because I know plenty in my family and in my family on the outside, many persons called to the bar in the 60s and the 70s, and they still practicing. I mean, they still finding their way to the office. Good Madam Speaker, as a small population, we must diversify our skill set and expand our employability range levels here in the Bahamas. We must do this primarily to enhance daily the opportunities that we can realistically seek out for Bahamians to earn a living and to ensure that Bahamians are able to compete pound for pound with their regional and global counterparts. This bill, Madam Speaker, opens the door for just that. And I am pleased to note that this is the kind of politics that South Beach entered public life to become a part of. This National Maritime Instruction and Training Bill is the kind of politics that transforms people's lives and social standing and class, Madam Speaker, all while adding greater value to family lineage and legacy. That is what I believe the politics of 1967 was all about, Madam Speaker. That is what I believe this maritime bill is about today. Bills that are thoughtful and insightful, bills that are monumental and pivotal, bills that are relevant and relatable, and bills, Madam Speaker, that just simply make sense. For me, Madam Speaker, they excite me. I see this as revolutionary, visionary, and simply forward-thinking. Madam Speaker, bills like this bill will undoubtedly be transformational and makes me to know, Madam Speaker, that as a party, the PLP is still on course. Bills like this Maritime Instructional Training Bill, Madam Speaker, will irrefutably alter the trajectory of countless Bahamian lives for decades. And Madam Speaker, this makes me to know that we truly, really do understand the assignment. We get it as a government, Madam Speaker. We understand our mandate. Madam Speaker, let me say, so that the world can hear, this National Maritime Education Bill, in my view, will be the equivalent of an act to establish the National Insurance Board of the Bahamas in 1972, or akin to even the act that to establish the Defense Force in 1979. This bill, Madam Speaker, in my view, is yet another in-your-face example of a government that is committed to good, accountable, and transparent governance. We are not just a group of people, Madam Speaker, that inherited power. Instead, Madam Speaker, we planned, we strategized, we consulted, and now, Madam Speaker, we are executing. We prepared ourselves to govern, and we are doing exactly just that, Madam Speaker. This bill today, Madam Speaker, is the kind of legislation that no one with a full functioning mind can oppose, regardless of your political beliefs or your personal ambitions. And Madam Speaker, I dare say to you, to the members here present, don't get caught on the wrong side of history this time. You better vote right. What is being debated here today, Madam Speaker, is bigger than Gold Party or Red Party. And I don't know if anybody else really consider Green Party, but Madam Speaker, what is being debated here today, we all, as members of the Gold, Black, and Aquamarine team, can be proud. You like the goal, eh? Long ago, Madam Speaker, I heard people like Dr. Roberts call for us as a nation to explore new options in professional training. Largely, Madam Speaker, Dr. Roberts referred to many professions in the allied healthcare sphere as the answer to many of our national employability challenges. Similarly, I recall hearing people like Captain Glenn Bain talk over and over and over again on his show about how many professions that were being soaked up by foreign labor as a result, a default, simply because we did not have the necessary skill set in our country, so employers regularly hired foreign. Think about that, Madam Speaker. To work in this Bahamas, on this Bahamian soil, work in Bahamian shipyards, Madam Speaker, were done by foreigners. With this bill, Madam Speaker, this new era administration is figuratively and literally preparing to teach Bahamians how to fish and to certify them so that the world knows. I do not have to say it, Madam Speaker, but we are doing it not because it is easy, but because, Madam Speaker, it is what the Bahamian people deserve, and it is indeed the philosophy of this party. Madam Speaker, I have said before in this place, never mind the small airs, I hear well. And I hear as I move around, Madam Speaker, Bahamians are thirsty for more. What I hear is that Bahamians want an expanded economy, Madam Speaker, and they want to participate in their economy more and more at all levels. Madam Speaker, I am supporting this bill today because this bill does exactly that. And again, Madam Speaker, I am careful to say that South Beach voice must be on the public record, particularly on matters that I know will be history-defining, Madam Speaker. So yes, Madam Speaker, I want to support this bill that will expand the maritime industry and all of its discipline in our country made up of 100,000 square miles of water. Yes, Madam Speaker, I want to say that I support the Academy establishing campuses and facilities throughout our archipelago to further carry on this function to as many Bahamians as possible. Madam Speaker, I support the determining of training exclusive but not limited to nautical science and marine engineering. Madam Speaker, I support this because this bill supports Bahamians. This supports their dreams. This supports their aspirations, Madam Speaker. And so I support it. Madam Speaker. I say to the Honourable Minister, responsible for the maritime industry, to let us chart the course that helps us realize that understanding that navigation science and marine engineering, and if I had a wish list, Minister, if I had a wish list to add dive science in there, because for me it will be an automatic fit. And so we must seek to, what they say, we must seek to bond this baby whole, right? I speak, because when I think holistically, right? I say let us quickly build this out by providing avenues to men and women that have charted our waters for years and that have been doing so well in all areas. Madam Speaker, for me, it only makes sense that we should try to somehow hitch this to the Royal Bahamas Defense Force as a feeder system of recruitment and safety and navigation and dive and even ship husbandry instructors, Madam Speaker. For they have been the ones training and retraining, certifying and recertifying bridge watchers, first mates, captains, pilots, and crew pilots in the marine safety environment for the last 25 years, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, men like Glenn Lightburn, Keith Smith, and Big Solomon Hall, God rest his dead, are just a few of the persons that I know have for years been safety trainers and training in safety. I tell you all, I just listen, Madam Speaker. I just hear what the people say. And I say, Madam Speaker, to the minister through you, that this legislation is a type of legislation, Madam Speaker, that galvanizes legacy and is the kind of legislation and the reason why streets are named after men. But we have to do it right. It has to be done right. We have to consider how we ensure that this legislation, when it says in 10(1)(c), that the Academy may participate in any exchange program with any institution or body, or in 10(1)(b), where it says that the Academy may enter into an agreement with one or more entities to facilitate practical training for students, that translate into our Bahamian youths, understanding that they know how to harvest, process, and dispose of many types of marine or maritime products, as many types as marine or maritime products as possible, Madam Speaker. This must translate to a safer, more environmental friendly interaction between the ocean and the next generation of Bahamians. Madam Speaker, we must ensure that this translates to our sons and daughters, not simply that they know where the conch is, and I just use it in conch because we're in the maritime space. Not that they know where the conch is, but they know where to find the conch. More importantly, they know how to take the conch of the shell. By this, Madam Speaker, I mean they need to understand the whole hog of this industry. Madam Speaker, we must ensure, Madam Speaker, that a bill as magnificent as this bill is one that does not go on record as just having great potential, Madam Speaker. But this bill must be one that has great impact, and that this impact will be visible for all to see for many, many years, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I said already that this bill excites me. In fact, Madam Speaker, this bill incites and is delightful to South Beach so much that I am prepared, Madam Speaker and Minister, to offer the constituency office in South Beach as a recruitment center. See, if you wonder why I say in my wish list I would really like to see dive science in there. See, Madam Speaker, unlike many of my colleagues, with the exception of Kalani and maybe Yamakro, I have a community pool in my constituency with 4 high schools, 2 of which are government. And this means that if what I read in the newspaper last week and I heard earlier this morning is true, more swimming pools will be coming in South Beach. And so that will undoubtedly, Madam Speaker, and of course we're on the coast, right? Of course, Madam Speaker, we're on the coast. So that will undoubtedly make South Beach the premier maritime training constituency. The premier maritime training constituency. See, I intend to sit as close to the minister responsible for transport and energy, and as close to the minister responsible for education and youth and sports, as close as I can, to ensure to ensure that we get what we should get in South Beach. Stay tuned, South Beach. Pool improvements are on the way. Madam Speaker, I invite all members to support this bill with the same enthusiasm that South Beach is. And I remind them that the Bahamas is watching. Madam Speaker, for those who may not, and I hope ain't none in here, who may not support this bill, like the scriptures say, I beseech thee, brethren, do not yet again find yourselves on the wrong side of history. Madam Speaker, this National Maritime Education Bill, to be honest, is the next big thing. With this bill, Madam Speaker, we are putting power in the hands of Bahamians, and that is something South Beach can fully support. South Beach rests. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member Asmini. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Marco City.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to make a brief intervention on what is a very important bill, the National Maritime Instruction and Training Bill 2024. The opposition has already indicated, and I wish to reaffirm, that we completely support this bill, and we believe that it is a step in the right direction and that will pay dividends for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Madam Speaker, as I begin, let me first of all welcome once again all of the cadets that are here, all of the instructors, and thank you once again for pouring your information and sharing your passion with us on this important work that you're engaged in. Madam Speaker, two of the three outstanding Bahamians who are here, and first let me mention Cheryl Cartwright, thank you very much for your insight. Two of the persons who are playing a key role in helping to further develop, to not only bring to national attention but international attention this incredible organization. I had the benefit of being under their tutelage as a student at the College of the Bahamas, now University of the Bahamas, and so it is so good to see Dr. Brenda May Clare, and of course, Sister Villamay, who has who has been a blessing to so many outstanding students, and many of whom have passed, both of you, many of the parliamentarians. I think 40% of the parliamentarians went to the University of the Bahamas or College of the Bahamas, so they passed through your hands, and we thank you very much for pouring the best of you in our lives. Any shortcomings we have, we do not attribute to you. That's on our own. We just want to let you know, but thank you so much. And to the cadets, thank you for your foresight to choose the area that you've entered into. We are a big ocean state. Some like to call us a small island state, but we're truly a big ocean state, more than 100,000 square miles of water. And in having brought this bill, no doubt it is going to inspire more young people, but certainly more than the inspiration, we need the resources to make real the dreams that you have. We're told that empowerment requires access to information. Empowerment is also about ensuring that there's no group that is disenfranchised. All must be brought in, so it talks about inclusiveness. But empowerment is also about having access to the decision makers, and this bill in a public-private partnership solidifies a partnership with the government that has really the platform and in some cases the resources to strengthen what you're doing. And then the final component in empowerment is access to resources, and that's critical. And it's wonderful that the bill makes provision that the government is not your only partner, that you are able to engage other stakeholders who can add value to what you are doing. And so we stand with the government in terms of providing resources. When I sat in cabinet, I know we had improved the subvention that was given. This, however, provides a more holistic framework to provide assistance, and we applaud the government for this step. And certainly, the College of the Bahamas, now University of the Bahamas, BTVI, as well as BAMSI, when during my time as Minister of Agriculture, carried a cabinet paper to ask the government to put BAMSI on a similar level as the University of the Bahamas, as well as BTVI, so that more students can attend the institution, because now you would have a subvention that impacts tuition and related costs for instruction. This bill, I'm certain, it is envisioned that a similar thing happens, that an increasing number of students benefit from tuition assistance and related fees, as well as, it is my hope, an extension to boarding assistance would be a powerful addition. I know that no particular figures were in this document. I suspect in related discussions or memorandum of understanding, those details would be fleshed out. But certainly, this administration that I lead and is likely to be in government in 2026, I just want you to know we will continue. You have our assurance that we will continue this work. Governments are continuous, and of course we will continue to lean on the advice and guidance of the member for Angliston, who knows that this is her baby. We want her to know it'll be in good hands with the Free National Movement in 2026 and beyond. And so, I just want to say that we believe that both administrations will be firmly committed to what you're doing. We also salute Lowell Mortimer, who has been really a patron of not only the orange economy, which is the creative arts, but he has been a patron and a significant entrepreneur in the field of the blue economy. And so we are grateful for his vision and leadership. And then, of course, if you have an incredible vision and a strategic plan that you wish to implement, it is most useful to put it in the hands of competent women because you execute. You are the backbone of almost every institution in this country, and so we are very grateful for the leadership that you are showing. Ironically, I went on a cruise recently, and while on the cruise, we were actually excited about seeing all these additional new ports, and I knew that Bahamians were on various cruise ships, but was not introduced or told that on that particular cruise ship there was a Bahamian. We had the good fortune of coming back, meeting with the leadership of Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, and found out that the person who was at the helm assisting the captain was in fact a Bahamian, a young Bahamian. I believe it was Miss Shante Pearson was on the ship, and so we were so sad we didn't have a chance to meet her on that trip. But because of the stress of this job, we will get a chance to meet her and others, because I'll be going back on some more cruises. So again, no, in fact, my cousin is the member for Freetown. As a part of his going away present, we're going to sponsor a cruise for him. But again, this is an important step forward. One of the things that we are particularly concerned about is the development of the blue economy, and the blue economy really is the intersection of a number of government ministries, but four in particular stand out. One would be the Ministry of Transport, the second, the Ministry of Tourism, thirdly, the Ministry of Marine Resources, and fourthly, the Ministry of the Environment. All four of these areas, your school has the potential to populate with so many outstanding professionals. And so I believe as you consider the expansion of your curriculum, it would be useful to look at those four national sectors as areas that you may consider. Where are the gaps in those sectors in terms of Bahamian professionals, and how might the school be instrumental in ensuring that you help to populate those 4 areas with professionals. One of the things we've advocated previously is the need for spatial planning in the Bahamas, particularly in our marine environment. And of course, there's a host of skill sets that are required to engage in spatial planning and to populate the various entrepreneurial initiatives that operate in the tourism space, in the sea transport space, in the marine resources space, and then, of course, in the environmental, marine environment, near shore as well as deep water. And so I believe that, again, you are, having been in the business for quite some time, you're a leader in this area, but I know there's so much more that you are able to do when you have more partners and more resources available. And so, again, we commend all of those who have played a role in ensuring that we have gotten to this point, and once again, stand in solidarity for increased tuition subvention. Of course, we also support educational exchanges. One of the successes of so many institutions has been the ability to give students a wide range of experiences and exposure through educational exchanges. And of course, the establishment of memorandums of understanding with a variety of organizations that can add value to what you're doing. I am confident that there are many citizens in jurisdictions who are able to receive rebates from their government because of their financial contributions to outstanding or important initiatives. I believe that finding those individuals, high network individuals and companies who through personal and corporate donations can have tax write-offs would be a wonderful thing. So to the extent that you're able to establish memorandum of understanding with organizations in those jurisdictions that can attract resources that can come to the Bahamas to buy additional equipment, to provide opportunities to add to your scholarship, I think it would be powerful. And of course, I note that in the bill, it makes provisions for you to have control over the endowments. And so, again, establishing a national endowment for the specific purposes of making sure there's a manifestation of your strategic plan would be an incredible thing. Private citizens, those with a lot or a little, can contribute to the endowment. Creating signature events on an annual basis that ties in to the endowment fund would be wonderful. Having some programs, marine related, that's a part of our social calendar as a country, but with a revenue generating potential would be a powerful thing to have a constant stream of funds going into your school, and we certainly would be happy to support. We also believe that this school will no doubt, and this training would no doubt explode opportunities for many of our young people. We have the unfortunate distinction as a country that is so wealthy with so many talented Bahamians to have far too many of our young people who are idle. In this place, I've raised on multiple occasions that if you leave right now and you go from the top of the Fort Hill or Fort Charlotte all the way to South Beach, I mean to the water, through many of the corners you will crisscross, you will find many of our children. Again, idle for a tremendous amount of time during the day, negotiating life and death issues with few persons interrupting those discussions to speak life over them or to speak wisdom to them so they can make right choices. This school provides an opportunity for us to absorb some of that talent and redirect them in a manner that could be transformative for our country. And it would be wonderful, I think, the more of these recruitment exercises we do at BTVI, UB, BAMSI, and other tertiary institutions, some in Grand Bahama as well. If we can attract and absorb more of these young people and then find the resources to make sure that they are positively engaged in these schools, we will not be having the kind of statistics that we are having where there's carnage in our homes, in some of our schools, and certainly in our streets. And so we salute the cadets. We believe that apart from you being technically sound, you also have the ability to be inspiration to other young people, because you saying things even remotely similar to what we're saying at your age would be far more impactful than us. And again, to the extent that we're able to get the cadets on radio and television programs and video recordings that we could push out to other young people, that you could tell them about what the program has meant to you, I think it would be inspirational to so many persons who don't have an idea of what you have become in part as a result of what you're doing, and then what some of the graduates are now doing globally, I think will blow people's mind the more they learn about the wise choice that you've made. And so I believe that apart from being experts in the marine field, you can be major social commentators in terms of what we ought to be doing to attract more of our young people. And so, again, Grand Bahama, we believe, ought to be sort of the maritime capital of the Bahamas. And while we have a presence of different institutions that make up the maritime space, that Grand Bahama is well suited because of the incredible marine resources we have there already, with one of the deepest harbors in the Western Hemisphere, deepest container ports, as well as a container port that can now accommodate the mega container vessels. We believe that that is one portion of the equation that's required. We have obviously one of the most dynamic shipyards that exists. We have a number of marine operations that complement the shipyard's work. And then, of course, because of the geopolitical positioning of Grand Bahama, again, we are that gateway of east, west, north, and south. And so it is our hope that you will set up, as you will in other islands, a campus in Grand Bahama and identify funders who would be minded to support it. I'm confident that land can come from either the government's inventory of land or the land that is DevCo actually has, and I believe they have more than 50,000 acres in their inventory and should gift to your organization land to construct another facility. I cannot imagine that they would not do that. They've done it for so many other organizations. I'm confident that the government will do the same for your organization. And so, again, we salute your institution, your academy, for the work that you've been doing historically. We thank you for the sacrifice you continue to make in education. You all have had a commitment to education long before this institution, and now you're pouring the best of what you have in this institution into our children. And we thank you. And so I'd like to say to all of my colleagues in the House, we join with you in supporting this work, and Marco City, as well as the Free National Movement, supports it.
Thank you, Honourable Member Asmini. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Yamacraw.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I rise, oh, sorry.
The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Yamacraw.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, as I rise, I am privileged to stand in this honorable House on behalf of the beautiful people of Yamacraw. I deem it a privilege to speak briefly in support of the National Maritime Instruction and Training Bill 2024, as brought forward by two very powerful ladies in our administration. Since coming into office, the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas have been focused on creating opportunities for the substantial social and economic growth and development of this great country. It is against this backdrop that yet another game-changing bill is proposed and will be passed here today, considering the colossal and crucial role which the maritime industry plays locally and globally. Accordingly, the proposed public-private partnership between the government and the Bahamas, the government of the Bahamas and the LJM Maritime Academy is precisely in keeping with the goal of augmenting this critical industry through the development of human capital. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Bahamas, as is ranked 10th in the world on the Paris MOU whitelist and ranked 3rd on non-European ship register, it has still tremendous potential to expand significantly to meet competitive global demands of the maritime industry. With that said, Mr. Deputy, this partnership seeks to make instruction and training in maritime not only accessible to young people. As stated earlier, this also makes this affordable. And so I'm proud to stand here in support of this bill. Essentially, this exposes many of our young people, some who are represented here in the gallery, who may not have such opportunities otherwise to explore this extensive and, might I add, exciting and rewarding career. I stand with my colleagues and other members of this House who commend Dr. Claire and her dynamic team of instructors and our cadets for their passion, and Dr. Claire for your persistence and dedication to this industry. I applaud them sitting here in the gallery, well represented for the passing of this bill. Simultaneously, this bill sets the stage for the Bahamas to be heralded as the home of one of the leading maritime institutions regionally. The offerings of the LJM Maritime Academy engage students in a theoretical and practical training way, while providing them with cutting-edge maritime technology, equipment, and tools that are essential for further development of the maritime industry. And Mr. Deputy, if I dare ask, I'm not sure if the LJM Institute is open for tours, but if Bahamians want to see what first-class training and equipment and personnel looks like, visit LJM Maritime Institute and just take a look at that facility out there. If you have not, you're doing yourself an injustice. You will appreciate if you visit LJM, what that facility offers and why we produce world-class maritime students, from pupils to captains, and all manners of careers in this industry. Mr. Deputy, in an effort to ensure optimal impact of this training endeavor, it is proposed that this bill establishes a framework for exposure to maritime training from as early as secondary school. And as the Minister of Education and Technical and Vocational Training indicated, this is connected in so many ways to our youngest students, because teaching them how to swim at an early age is the first requirement as a part of your general training and understanding and appreciation of our maritime industry. And so I commend the Minister of Education, I commend the Minister of Energy and Transport on continuing to push and for this endeavor to now come to its fruition today. Mr. Deputy, in an effort to ensure optimal impact of this training endeavor, this proposed bill not only establishes the framework, in essence, it gives our high school students a jump start that they're expected to better be prepared for their chosen careers. And I also commend the Pools and Schools initiative, which is coming on to stream, and we'll see the connectivity there. I once again reiterate the vital role of the maritime industry and its significance in boosting our nation's economy. This industry supports the global trade ecosystem. It serves as the connection of global markets, trades between nations, and the necessary networks that supports international commerce. Undoubtedly, Mr. Deputy, a strong maritime industry fuels a robust and sustainable economy. Hence, our system of training must adequately prepare our students to perpetuate a legacy of maritime prominence locally and internationally. Therefore, I wholeheartedly support the proposed functions outlined in this bill, which addresses the need to qualify and equip persons with the knowledge and skills to be engaged in the maritime industry, both domestically and globally. Mr. Deputy, research clearly indicates that this is the era of collaboration. The National Maritime Instruction and Training Bill 2024 essentially speaks to the Academy collaborating with other agencies in an effort to enhance instruction. For instance, provisions are made for the establishment of the arrangements with one or more entities to facilitate practical training for students, participation of engaged or of exchange programs with any other institutional bodies, and partnerships with other academic institutions or bodies to strengthen its academic programs and intellectual capacity. Mr. Deputy, collaboration provides learning environments with a much-needed boost. As I noted in an article by the University of Minnesota, or as noted in an article by the University of Minnesota, academic partnerships create the potential to build a lasting network of resources and opportunities for students as well as faculty that may subsequently lead to an expanded network of future opportunities and collaboration. And Mr. Deputy, if I may just mention that presently there's a need for us to man our waters better, our protected environments, and I see a connectivity here and new careers coming about because of those mandates that we do have to protect our natural environment. And definitely the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources would benefit from this academy additionally. And I encourage ministries to look at ways in which we can individually, as ministries, sponsor students in this academy that can yield fruit for the efficiency of our ministries. Moreover, this bill simply allows deserving youth the opportunity to be trained as top-rate maritime professionals at the possibility of absolutely no cost. This is game-changing, Mr. Deputy.
Yes.
As stated, the Eastern Caribbean Regional Ocean Policy 2015 document, published by the Ministry of Transport and Aviation, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas in this has rights and responsibilities of over 245,000 square miles of maritime space, not just over 100,000, over 245,000 square miles of maritime space, and the sustainable utilization and management of that space is critical to the long-term socio-economic development of this beautiful country. Mr. Deputy, how do we ensure that this rich heritage is sustained? The answer is outlined in the National Maritime Instruction and Training Bill 2024. The establishment of a partnership between the government and our leading maritime academy is indeed a crucial step in this process as we seek to produce world-class marine biologists, sailors, oceanographers, ship owners, and the like. Even deep-sea divers from deep ocean divers from South Beach. Let's protect and sustain the treasure of our exhilarating waters that continue to be the envy of the rest of the world. As we preserve its beauty, we simultaneously facilitate the progression of economic and national development of the maritime sector in the Bahamas. Mr. Deputy, I do not wish to belabor the point of the effectiveness of this bill, the potentials that this bill presents, and also the fact that we're doing real work that has real impact on our young and old persons alike, all persons in our community. And I think it's only fitting that our women have led the way in bringing forth this bill, because I believe in equal opportunity that is not just about competent women, or as I don't believe in that term. You give everyone equal opportunity, and I assure you that the best will rise to the top, whether they're women or men. And we are certainly seeing some of the best on this side rise to the top and bring forth this game-changing bill. With that, Mr. Deputy, I say Yamakro is proud to support this very important bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. It is
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would now move that the question be.
I just wanted to.
the Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Angliston.
Oh, sorry.
It is the usual.
Yes,
Thank you.
sorry.
Thank you.
Don't want to be
No, I just wanted, a couple of issues that were raised I wanted to address. I think the question was asked about whether the Family Islands, it's a national program, which means it's the nation, and so it would include Family Islands. The member for Long Island raised the issue about the minister. He had a concern about minister directing policy. If he reads the provision, he will see it relates, it's a very narrow area of policy. It relates to the national maritime policy and the issues therein. And the objectives, I wanted to just clarify because I heard Marcos here, and I just wanted to make sure that the understanding is this is a national program. This is being ushered by the Bahamas government. We have chosen, and they've agreed to partner with the LJM Institute, which has distinguished itself in its field, but we don't want it to be sort of not fully understood. This is a national program being driven by the Bahamas government that will be funded, and the objectives, and I just wanted to just go into the bill itself. It says, whereas the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is committed to expanding the maritime sector domestically and internationally in a rational and sustainable manner for the social and economic growth and development of the Bahamas. And whereas the government recognizes that skilled and trained technical manpower is essential for the advancement of the sector. And now, therefore, the government seeks to partner with a duly accredited tertiary institution to confer the responsibility for the education and training of individuals in the maritime sector to perform at international standards for the advancement of the national maritime sector. So we wanted to be clear that so it's not, I want to make sure people understand this is a national program driven by the Bahamas government to expand and extend the maritime sector and the training of young people, and we've chosen to partner with a very prestigious academy, which is the LJM Academy, which has proven itself in this area. I also wanted to, just to make sure that the objectives of the act. The objectives of this act are to establish a public-private partnership with the Academy to make instruction and training in maritime more accessible and affordable to young persons. That is what is guiding the government in this. We want to make this more accessible to young persons. Also, to promote the Academy globally as an institute in the region leading in maritime instruction and training, to work with the Academy for them to further enhance their profile and position themselves in the region and globally, to designate the Academy as the nationally recognized institute for maritime instruction and training in the Bahamas. That is also what is happening here. The Bahamas government is moving for a recognition of this Academy as the training and maritime instruction and training institute for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And finally, to advance the social and economic growth of the Bahamas by developing the maritime industry. And so we want to make it clear that this is a very firm commitment by the Bahamas government in conjunction with LJM to ensure that the maritime sector is expanded and deepened and economic opportunity is availed to an array of young people in this country, and that the government will do its part in funding this program to ensure this. So this is not a simple partnership. This is a national commitment for the expansion of maritime sector, the Bahamas government. And so, in that regard, sir, I can go ahead? I take this opportunity now to move for second reading and passage of this incredibly impactful bill, which I believe will be a paradigm changer, an empowering movement in the life of our young people. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to establish a public-private partnership between the government of the Bahamas and the LGM Maritime Academy to facilitate the progression of economic growth and national development of the maritime sector in the Bahamas. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Order that the bill be read a second time and committed.
A bill for an act to establish a public-private partnership between the government of the Bahamas and the LJM Maritime Academy to facilitate the progression of economic growth and the national development of the maritime sector in the Bahamas.
Further second reading of bills.
No further second reading of bills. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I will now move the House to dissolve itself in the Committee of the Whole with the member for Southern Shores in the chair.
To the 1 o'clock hour. To the 1 o'clock hour.
And before then, Mr. Speaker, bearing in mind the time, I would move that we sit beyond the 1 o'clock hour to complete
Is there a
the
seconder?
agenda of the House today.
It has been moved and seconded that the business of the House do pass the 1 o'clock hour. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The business of the House will exceed beyond the 1 p.m. hour. It has been moved and seconded that the House do now resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole with the member of Southern Shores in the chair. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The member of Southern Shores will be in the chair.
They say even the devil knows scripture, you know.
The devil could quote scripture.
Not that I'm saying that's you.
Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Chairman, the first bill we'd like to address is the Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information Amendment Bill 2024. And I move that the long title of the bill be agreed.
Second. It has been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many as in favor will remain seated. Those opposed stand. The long title of the bill agreed.
I then move that the Clause 1, the short title of the bill, be agreed.
Do you have a second? It has been moved and seconded that the short title of the bill be agreed. As many as in favor remain seated. Those opposed stand. The motion is carried. The short title is agreed.
I would then move, Mr. Chairman, that clauses 2 through 5 of the bill be agreed.
Second. It has been moved and seconded that the short title of the clause 2 to 5 be agreed. Those opposed may, as many as in favor may remain seated. Those opposed stand. The motion is carried that the short title, that the clause 2 and 5 be agreed.
I now move, Mr. Chairman, that the bill in its entirety be agreed.
Second. Good. It has been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many as in favor remain seated. Those opposed stand. The motion is carried. The bill in entirety is agreed.
Mr. Chairman, I would now move to the National Maritime Instruction and Training Bill 2024, and I would move that the long title of the bill be agreed.
You have a second? Second. It has been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many as in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The long title is agreed.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that this bill has a preamble, and so that the preamble of the bill be agreed.
Do you have a second? It has been moved and seconded that the preamble of the bill be agreed. As many as in favor remain seated. Those opposed stand. The motion is carried that the preamble be agreed.
I would now move, Mr. Chairman, that Clause 1, the short title of the bill, be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the short title, Clause 1, be agreed. As many as in favor remain seated. Those opposed stand. The motion is carried. The short title is agreed.
I then move, Mr. Chairman, that clauses 2 to 13 of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the clause 2 to 13 be agreed. As many as in favor remain seated. Those opposed stand. The motion is carried. The clause 2 to 13 is agreed.
I would now move, Mr. Chairman, that the bill in its entirety be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many as in favor remain seated. Those opposed stand. The motion is carried that the bill in its entirety is agreed.
I now move, Mr. Chairman, that the House do resume with the Deputy Speaker in the chair. That's premature, you know. I didn't say that. But we see where your mind is. It wasn't like that when I was there.
It's me?
It's leadership that makes a difference.
The chairman of the Committee of the Whole has reported the committee has examined several bills, making no amendments thereto. Third reading and passing of bills. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I now move for the third reading and passing of the Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information Amendment Bill 2024.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a third time and pass. A bill for an act to amend the Automatic Exchange and Financial Account Information Act. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. Order that the bill be read a third time and pass.
A bill for an act to amend the Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information Act.
Order that this bill do now pass, and the title therefore to be a bill for an act to amend the Automatic Exchange and Financial Accounting Information Act. For the third reading.
Yes, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I now move for the third reading and passage of the National Maritime Instruction and Training Bill 2024.
It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a third time and pass. A bill for an act to establish a public-private partnership between the government of the Bahamas and the LJM Maritime Academy to facilitate the progression of economic growth and national development of the maritime sector in the Bahamas. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Order that the bill be read a third time and pass.
A bill for an act to establish a public-private partnership between the Government of the Bahamas and the LJM Maritime Academy to facilitate the progression of economic growth and national development of the maritime sector in the Bahamas.
Order that this bill do now pass, and the title therefore declared to be a bill for an act to establish a public-private partnership between the Government of the Bahamas and the LJM Maritime Academy to facilitate the progression of economic growth and national development of the maritime sector in the Bahamas. For the third reading. Consideration of Senate amendments.
No further third readings.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Resolutions. Member statements.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, we had hoped to do the resolution, but given the time and the other side would wish more expansive treatment, we would stand that over the next week.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Appointments of select committees. Instructions of select committees. Discharge of select committees. Notices for future meetings. Adjournment.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I renew all notices on behalf of the government.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for St. Anne's.
And I renew all notices on behalf of the opposition, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Thank you.
Adjournment.
The Deputy Speaker, I move that the House on its rising do adjourn to Monday, the 1st of July at 10 a.m.
The 1st of July.
1st of July. Yeah,
Okay.
It's that time already.
Oh,
Mr.
wow.
Deputy Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the House on its rising do adjourn until July the 1st at 10 a.m. 2024. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. Final adjournment.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I now move that the House do adjourn to Monday, the 1st of July 2024 at 10 a.m.
Is there a seconder? It has been moved and seconded that the House do now adjourn. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The House will resume on Monday, the 1st of July 2024 at 10 a.m.